Thank you, Niklesh. Please allow me some time to share my screen first. Okay, so today we are here to talk about automation ops, but before diving into automation ops, we have a few important topics to discuss. So let's see what are the agenda today for the session. So today our agenda is to know the need of scaling the automation from where the automation ops has stemmed out. So it's a bud coming out of scaling your automation and the need to automate at a larger scale. And how do you plan to scale your automation? So before I dive into this topic as how do you plan to scale your automation, I would love to know your views. After that, we would be discussing challenges related to scaling automation. So I believe that something new that comes up will come up with some challenges and how we can conquer it and how UiPath is going to help us to conquer those challenges. And then we are going to go into automation ops with a practical demo. So today's demo would be divided into three parts. The first part will be how to create policies. What is automation ops? Where would I find it on the automation cloud? First, second would be creating policies that demonstrates the concept of inheritance. And the third would be creating policies or using it which would demonstrate the use of priority that is allocated with each of the policies that you create. After that, we have a fun session of quiz. So I want all of you to be ready with your mobile phone so that we can go ahead with the quiz as well. So let's begin. What is the need of scaling automation, or what does scaling your automation means? So as per, let's go by the bookish definition. Scaling automation means accelerating digital transformation by empowering business users to automate tasks for themselves and their immediate team. And now let's talk about it in the layman term. So there is an automation hub in your organization, COE-led unautomated automations, attended automation that governs your whole organizational needs. Then it drips to personal or departmental automation. So for example, if you're working for a shared service center, there will be a COE that would be handling basics or large scale automation projects. Then each team would have certain ideas of automation which would be driven by them. And then it trickles down to individual contribution into automation. So this, if you see, automation or scaling your automation is kind of a series of process that goes from a higher level and trickles down to every single person in your organization. So that's how you talk about scaling automation, or that's what it generally means. Let's move ahead and see. How do you plan to scale your automation? Before I show you my answer, I have a small poll created for you, and I want all of you to get your mobile phones out and go to mentimeter.com or menti.com and use this code. You can scan this QR code as well. And now I will present the Mentimeter question answer. Let's see what polls say. Let's give it a moment. By then, I hope all of you are ready to answer this question. So how do you plan to scale your automation? Please give your answers and let's see what's the general mindset of the people right now.
Just give a few seconds so that everyone can join. Menti.
Yeah.
Where can you please type the code?
So the code is 71623840. It's visible on the screen as well. And if you see, it's visible here. I hope you can see my screen. Automate. Automate more maybe, COE, yes, that's a good plan. All right, I need more answers. Let's see what comes to your mind when we talk about scaling automation. Infrastructure, yes, it's very important. UiPath, definitely UiPath is there. Process optimization, a core concept. Okay. Govern, yes. Reusable components, very important. For scaling your automation, I think reusable components play a key role. Security. All right, so we've seen a lot of answers over here around the question, how do you plan to scale automation? Let's see what my answer would be in case if I would have been answering this question. So let's move forward. Okay, for me, if I talk about how do you scale your automation, if I was in the year 2018 and probably answering you this question, I would say, hey, I want more robots. That's how I scale my automation. But now, if I'm more sensible enough and with the kind of technology or with the kind of way UiPath has grown into it, I would say, I want more robots for sure. I want unattended, attended AI robots, everything for my automation. But I want to discover more processes that I can use to automate. Like, this is where this is where task mining, process mining, task capture, all these things would come into picture. So I want to discover more to automate. I want to allow more people to build automation. So it's just not allowing people, empowering people to automate. This is how I will scale. Why I say that? The more the people know how to automate, the more the automation processes goes into production. Build different types of automation. What does this mean? Earlier, if going back to 2018, if automation we would be discussing at that time, I would probably say desktop automation, web-based automation, more or less terminal automation. But now I can proudly say like UiPath has come out with document understanding, UiPath data services, so many things. So I want more kinds of automation coming into picture. And I want to interact with those automation differently. So how do you interact with your automation? It's by the bots that you have. So I want attended, unattended, AI, test robots, everything for my scaling of automation. We have Orchestrator. We all know how to use Orchestrator. I want to measure that and govern that better. So this is how I will be scaling my automation if I talk about how do I want to scale automation. Let's move forward and let's see how do you or your robots that you currently have engage with the workforce. I will show you two pictures. So actually one single picture, two different ways of interpreting this. So currently, if you see, if you would have been in various other meetings from UiPath, you would have seen certain phases. That's called discover, build, manage, run, engage. So how do you discover? You discover using Automation Hub, task capture, process mining, task mining. How do you build your automation? Definitely you need Studio. There is a Studio family now, Studio, Studio Pro, Studio X. And then we have our marketplace where we can go and get custom-made workflows and activities, etc. Document understanding framework is available to build a solution around documents, invoices, all that. Manage, how do you manage it? We have Orchestrator, we all are aware of it. Insights, focusing on insights. You can actually see how your automation has fared you so far. AI manager, test manager, you run your automation, coming to run, you run your automation using robots, and we have plethora of options now to use from. Engage, how do you engage with your automation? By apps. You can create an interactive layer over an existing automation using apps. You have your assistant, you have your action center where you can submit items to the human in the loop concept, where it comes to life using action center, chatbots. So these are things that have been going on. Let's bring something new in this picture. If you see, we have something called as measure and govern. This is where I will fit automation ops into. This is where I will fit scaling automation into. So you measure and govern and scale your automation, everything all in one picture under this particular tab, measure and govern. Let's move ahead. When I said that I want to scale automation, and when I talk about automation, that's in production, handling real life scenarios, there will always be some challenges. Now, again, before I answer it, let's see what do you or what your thoughts are around answering this question. So let's go to the next question on Mentimeter. That is, Do you have governance policies in your organization? If you have, tell the nature of it. Is it in forms of document? Do you not have it at all? All those answers. Let's see what's there in the general public at the moment. The code remains same, 71623840. Documents, forums. I would like to know what kind of forums. Documenting, definitely yes. All right, let's see some more answers. Let's see some more engagement from the community. Design review forums, okay, okay. Single source of truth, all right. Knowledge articles, very well. Confluence, very well. Code reviews, yes, very important. Knowledge articles, KB articles. All right, so proper KTs, okay, okay. Conditions, okay. Okay, so let's talk about something in the answer over here that we have. It's documented, it's architecture review board, it's reviews, code reviews, it's proper KT, single source of truth, everything, whatever we are talking about, it's somewhere or the other, without automation ops or without considering the solution from UiPath, we are actually having these kind of approach. We document, we try to document everything. We try to, enforce these things. So how do we do that? When it comes to code reviews, maybe you've already done your code and then you review and you see, maybe you're not naming your activities properly, or maybe you're using some URL, or you're using a browser that you shouldn't use in the organization. And then what happens when you go back to the scripter, you ask them to change it. It becomes a whole time that you've been developing your code, you've wasted it, right? So these kind of challenges, I hope you must have faced in your organization. Coming back to my answer to the question. These points that I just discussed or I asked you to answer is where it leads to the challenges which we face while scaling those automation. What I feel is like when you scale your automation, it's not just one process, two process you're talking about. You're talking about like maybe hundreds of process. So how to simplify that scalability at such a large level? How to simplify that kind of collaboration? That's one point. How to make an experience that fits all. All the processes are different, but it has to fit all of those processes. How do we ensure that it's secure? Documentation, how do you ensure that it's secure, and how would you apply it to that? Like, it's only documented, right? So how do you improve the performance quality, and also how do you manage the time of your resources if you're just documenting your processes or reviews and etc. So these are the challenges that if we do it in old fashioned, we will face, and we might face a few when we are scaling it for the first time, your automations in your organization. Now let's pause. Let's now, imagine automation ops. This is where automation ops is a tool that will come into picture, help you to scale your automation in a governed and effective, self-sufficient manner. So let's go to automation ops. Finally, the whole session is based on automation ops. So let's discuss about this topic. So what is automation ops? Automation ops is cloud-first, rich, web-based application that enables users to quickly set up policies and package sources. It's easy to govern, easy to configure, easy to deploy, and it applies across all the Studio family, that is Studio, Studio Pro, and Studio X, and now your UiPath Assistant as well. No more why automation ops? I will come to this point after one important demo session. So no more theory, let's go to the automation ops demo session. Okay, so where do you find your automation ops? You go to your automation cloud, log into your automation cloud and click on admin. Once you click on admin, you have the option of automation ops. That's where you have to click. All right, so I do have few policies created. I'll show you new policies, how to create new policies, and I'll talk about all the options available here to create policies. Basically two, that's one, how to upload a policy, and the second one is to add a product policy and how to do it from scratch. So now we are going to build a policy from scratch. Our main motive will be to create a policy in a manner that we can at least use it to enforce workflow analyzer rules as well. So let's dig into it. Click on add product policies, and one best thing to remember is it's product based. It's product based. Whenever you create a policy, you always have to select what exact product you're creating that policy for. So in my case, let's select Studio and give a name of your policy. Click on add. When you create this policy, when you click on add, this policy's skeletal structure is created. Now there are a few important points to look for. Policy name, apart from that, availability. So for 30 days, starting from today onwards, this policy would be available. You can modify this particular amount of time. And priority. So we are going to discuss priority in depth, and we are going to see how it affects your governance. So yeah, you can assign priority 1 to like levels, level 1, 2, 3. The lower the number, the higher the priority. So it is an inverse relation between number and the applicability of the priority of the policies. So keep that in mind. Let's move to the sections. If you want to give a description, please do give it. So as a matter of best practices, I prefer giving a description. So there might be different teams for which you're creating these policies, right? So make sure you give a proper description. So this is for our demo session. I'm going to keep it like that. And let's move forward with the design part of the policy. So you see, you can customize all your policies based on how you want it. So under the design tab, you can click on enforce analyzer before publish and before run. So if it is no, it won't enforce the analyzer while you're publishing or running your code from the studio. It's a matter of choice for the user in this case. But for now, I want to keep it yes. Let's keep it to yes. I don't want the user to override my settings that I'm configuring for them. So I'm not going to tick that checkbox. The rest is analyze RPA XAML files only. I would keep that as no, because maybe in my project, I have certain Excel file. I might have config Excel file that we have from RE framework. I want everything to be analyzed through my workflow analyzer. So I'm going to keep this as no. Enforce check-in before publish. So if you have a repository where you have to check in your code, make sure you click that as yes. So for default language that you use for writing the code in your studios, it is totally based on what approach your organization use. Use modern for new projects. Currently, I keep it as no. You can keep it as yes, depending on what kind of what your project settings are. Slim view for collapsed activities. Totally depend on how you approach your visibility of the code on the studio. That's it. This will only affect that. So this is the design panel of your policies. Let's move to the general panel and see. So do you want to send anonymous UI descriptors? It doesn't really would affect any of the governance policies for now. So I'm going to keep it as no. Feature toggles. Do I want my user to send feedback? Maybe let's keep it as no. I don't want feedback at the moment for the governance policies that I'm creating. So I'll keep it as no. And hide the getting started screen. Let's keep it as no as well. So let's go to manage sources. Okay. When you see something like allow users to add or remove feeds, let me clarify. What is feeds? Feeds, you can have local feeds from Orchestrator. You can have NuGet feeds, etc. So local feeds, when you install your UiPath Studio, and you are by default, you will be using your local feed in which all the activity packages that you're using by default gets populated. Now, suppose if you're not using your local feeds, you will still have the local feed folder from the place where you install. So maybe program files, UiPath Studio, and then the local feeds folder. You will have activity packages for UI automation, system automation, Excel, and mail activities. So those would be there by default. Then you have Orchestrator feeds. If you're not using Orchestrator, then you have my get feed, from where your packages are taken by the UiPath Studio when you go to manage resources. So this is what you're controlling at manage sources package. It is very important to know what you're creating as policies. So know the terms very well while you're creating your policies. So for now, I want to keep it as default, and I don't want to change anything over here. Also, this is where it says that your official and connect feed, etc., are shown over here. So you see your official feed, wherever by default UiPath in runtime gets its activity packages, is myget.org. Let's move ahead. Let's go to Workflow Analyzer. I find this particular portion of the policy is very interesting. So I don't want my user to override these policies, because these are important. These are mandatory for them to follow. And let's keep it as embedded, like multiple level or layers of actions I want to imply using these policies. Let's go into detail. If you get overwhelmed by these codes, I would ask you to go to this page, docs.uipath.com, Workflow Analyzer Rules. Go through all these rules. You'll have the codes mentioned, rule ID mentioned here. So this rule ID is mentioned over here as well. So this is what one thing that you might need to study, if you haven't until now, is about the Workflow Analyzer rules. Please do that. Let's get here, and we are creating a policy where I want to blacklist a browser and blacklist a URL. So let's do that. So for that, the code is UXSEC010. Let's find that. Okay, UXSEC010. Let's click on edit, and let's change the default action to from warning to error. So if you do not change this particular default action from warning to error, basically you're not enforcing this policy while the user is going to use your governance policies that you're going to configure for them. So let's keep it to error. Okay, blacklist apps. For me, let's blacklist, remove this use default value, and let's blacklist chrome.exe. Save, and blacklist URLs. For the demo purpose, I'm going to use Acme test. So I'm going to use this. Let's go back here. It's basically the same steps that you follow to blacklist your apps. You have to follow the same way for this. Untick this, provide your value, and save. That's it. Save this. Let's see what happened. So you have manipulated the policy UXSEC010 of Workflow Analyzer to error, and you have changed the level to error. So this will take effect while you're running your automations. All right, let's see. What else do we want to configure? All right, let's go and check location. So location, project path, your publish URL, libraries, everything you can customize. You can limit the interaction of your project's saving capacity where you're actually storing or publishing your processes from. So right now I don't want to do that. I'm going to keep it as such, and now I'm going to save it. That's it. So we've created a policy called as Automation Ops Policy Demo with the priority as 3. Let me edit this and let me change it to a higher priority at the moment. I'm going to change it to priority 1. So basically, when I assign this as priority 1, this policy will take precedence. Don't worry, we are going to talk about priority and inheritance in detail. So let's save this and let's move on to deployment. So when you talk about automation ops, divide it like this. You divide it to creation of policies and then you divide it into deployment of these policies. So let's move on to deployment. It's very interesting how you can control your deployment. You can deploy it at tenant level, groups level, and users level. And I'm going to share a very important information that also becomes the answer for your quiz that we would have. So that information is the inheritance of the policy. So you deploy your policies at tenant, group, and user level. Your user level can inherit your policies from groups. A group can inherit the policy from tenants. Now, if you assign no policy to user, but you assign a policy to group, by default, no policies would be applied in this case because you've selected as no policies for user. There would not be any inheritance. When there can be an inheritance, suppose if you assign a policy with lower priority to user and a higher priority to the group, there would be the inheritance of the policy from the group to the user. So this is a concept that we should keep in mind. You can read about it in detail on the docs.uipath.com. So make that as your base, as your point of truth in case you're learning about automation ops or as a matter of fact, anything else. So let's start deploying it. So this is my tenant, Pathfinder. I'm going to click on that. You'll see various options, like you can deploy it for attended user, that is at the assistant level, RPA Developer Pro, and Citizen Developer. So for now, let me go ahead and deploy a policy for Studio, Automation Ops Policy Demo. RPA Developer Pro, I don't need to, but just for the sake of showing it to you, I'm going to deploy it over here as well. So Automation Ops Policy Demo. I don't have a Studio X and Citizen Developer in my case would not make sense. So I'm not going to deploy anything for Citizen Developer. Before saving it, okay, let's save this and let's move to deployment at tenant at group level. So currently when you see what, okay, I'm showing 3 different groups. For the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to deploy it to all these 3 groups. In your organization or when you're trying to work on this, you might select just one group or based on the requirement. So let's go ahead. All you have to do is to click on the group for which you are deploying the policy and select from here. So for now, I'm going to select Automation Ops Policy Demo, save. And just for demo purpose, I'm going to do it for all others. Wonderful. Now let's come at the user level. Okay, so I already have deployed at tenant and groups level. For the demo purpose, I'm deploying at various levels in tenants, various groups and users. I'm going to deploy it for admin now. Okay, so if you see on the Studio right now, I can choose which policy I want to deploy. So suppose, let's talk not about the automation ops policy and let's talk about test ops. If I select test ops over here, when I run my process, test ops would be applied. But for now, we've created automation ops policy demo. Let's select that. Save. That's it. Your policy is configured. Your policy is deployed. Let's see that into action. So basically, the workflow that uses Chrome or that wants to open Acme and log into it should not be able to do that and should give us an error. Let's see. Let's go to the Studio and let's see what happened. All right, where do you see your policy? Go to help and see, we created automation ops policy demo and I deployed it and I can see that applied to my Studio as well. So the company policy now that I'm using while I'm developing or will be developing my flows is automation ops policy demo. I already have something in place for today's demo. I've created an Acme test. I'm using a Chrome browser. I am using Acme to log into the Acme application. But according to the policy, I should not be able to do that. Let's see if it happens or not. It's a very simple sequence that I have. I'm opening the browser, Chrome browser, and I'm trying to log in to Acme. Let's see what happens. So Analyzer was enforced, and you see I blacklisted the URL, I blacklisted chrome.exe, and it threw me an error exactly for the code UXSEC010 for which I configured my policy. So this is a very simple end-to-end deployment and creation of an automation policy. Excuse me. Okay, let's move forward. And let's talk about inheritance and priority. How we've seen it in theory, let's see it in action. So I'm going to close my studio. Also remember, when you deploy or you change policy for a particular tenant, there might be cases where you have to reopen your studio so that it refreshes it. All right, let me close the studio and let's go back to our automation ops. So for the demo purpose, I've already created 3 policies. I have automation ops policy. I have a policy named as policy with higher priority and test ops. So let's use automation ops policy demo that we have created right now. And let's use policy with higher priority. Currently, its priority is 3. And in this let me show you what I have in this particular policy. So in this particular policy, under the workflow analyzer section, under this section, I basically have removed the constraint of using Acme and Chrome as a browser. Okay, see, so it's still into warning, and if I show this in detail to you, I've basically done nothing. I've not blacklisted anything. So let's cancel and change its priority. So I'm going to give it the highest priority, and then we are going to learn how will that affect. Sorry. Okay. So now currently for users, what policy do we have? We have automation ops policies. Let's see, automation ops policy demo. So I'm going to keep this as such, but do remember the policy has lower priority than the one that I'm going to replace with. So let's see what's the priority for automation ops policy demo. It's 2, and for policy with higher priority is 1. So lower the number, higher the priority. If I deploy this at groups level, this should be applied. Let's go back here. Let's go to groups and let's deploy for all the groups the highest priority policy that I have. Sorry, save. All right, done. Let's open the studio again. At user level, I still have the priority. I still have automation ops policies deployed, but the precedence should be taken from the groups policy itself. Let's see what's visible over here. It still shows automation ops policy demo. The reason is at user level, I'm still having this. Let's open my project. All right, let's run this and see. So at user level, it's still deployed to UX SEC. Wait, let me change it. All right, let's see what happened. So the policy that I've applied now is policy with higher priority that was applied at the user level with high priority, and the lower priority was applied to the groups. So that was our earlier policy that we've configured. Let's run this. So let's go to start and open my project again. All right, let's run this. That's it. Even though at group level, I have a policy configured that blocks opening of the Chrome browser and that blocks opening of the URL for Acme, but a higher priority deployed at the user level takes precedence. And also, one thing to keep in mind, or one thing to notice over here, is the ease of how we can actually assign different policies at different user level for different tenants and different groups. So we might not have a single team that's going to automate a project. We can create, configure specific policies for specific teams also when we have these kind of feature. Now let's talk about the upload part in the automation ops. Before going there, let me show you where we can actually find it. On the policy tab, there is one more option to upload your policies. So we are going to see this, and I'm going to tell you two facts that might help you to answer your quiz. So let's go to the studio and let's go to home and let's go to the help page. When I go to the help page, you basically see you have an option to generate your governance file. So this governance file would be used to upload new policies. So you might not need to deploy everything from scratch. You might just use something that's already existing and deploy it to your infrastructure. So UiPath has actually made it governance made easy from UiPath. So let's click on this. You'll see two policies, classic policy and modern policy. I'll show you the difference once we export these policies. So let's export classic policies for policy with higher priority. Save. And let's try and get the modern policy as well. All right, let's save it here. All right, now let's see the difference in both of what I was trying to show you. Okay, let's go to classic policy first and open it in Notepad. So in this, you will see three kinds of tabs: business, development, and one more. But let's check for the business first. There. So basically, from while you configure your policies are divided into three portions, and in classic policies, all those three parts are a part of the single policy document. Your business, your development policies, everything is a part of a single document. Let's check the development part also. See, it's already there. So classic policies are a combination of everything in one particular document. Let's see what's there with modern policy. So I already have one policy exported over here. So yeah, business, development, and Studio Pro policies. These are the three portions in which your policy document is divided. Your classic policy document will have all these three information inside one single policy document. But in case of modern policies, it is basically divided into business, development, and Studio Pro. And the information in both the kind of policies depends on how you have configured any existing policy or the one that you've exported. So this is one difference that I want you to take note of, and this will help you while solving the quiz as well. So let's move forward and let's try and upload. So we are only going to see how we upload it, and that's it, because everything after that is same as per our earlier demo. So let's click on upload and let's take UiPath policy.development, open. That's it. Let's see. Modern policy, test ops. This one is created. There are two. One I created with the name of business, and the other one I've created with the name of development. Let's see the one that is created over here. So you see, when you create something using an existing file, this might be very helpful when you have, say, for example, you are in a finance shared service center, you have a team called as P2P, and you have a team called as account payable. You might need the policies that's more or less similar with slight difference. So you export an existing policy, create it, like uploading it on the automation ops, and then modern policies can be changed, can be customized based on your requirement. Same way that we've created other policies: design, general, feature toggles, managed sources, workflow analyzer, location, and priority. And we can save it as well. You can rename your policy over here as well. So let me rename it and save. That's it. Rest of the deployment and everything is similar to what we did earlier. All right, so this was our demo. Let's go back to the presentation. I've shown you automation ops, what it is. Now I'll answer you why automation ops, because we've seen the demo. You yourself would be able to answer it because it's very easy to use, easy to configure, deploy, self-sufficient, and very efficient in nature. It can be applied to various workflows, various teams at user, tenant, and group level as well. So this is why automation ops is useful for us. It matches all your development lifecycle, from controlling inputs to outputs and logging as well. So we've already seen controlling inputs. We've seen how the logs appeared and who, when, errors, all kind of interactions, like interaction with, currently I was having an interaction with a web-based portal where I have to key in values. That also can be controlled. So you see, automation apps not only matches your development lifecycle, but also gives you an ability to see which user to use what kind of policy. All right, we've done the demo. Now it's the quiz time. I want you all to get back to your phones, go to menti.com and use the code 68321289, or you can scan the QR code.
Guys, please be ready with the question answer. You may pin some to the.
All right, so in this quiz, I want all of you to key in your original names and no fancy names so that we know who have answered the most and the most correct as well. So let's start the quiz. I hope all of you are ready.
Can you repeat the
Code? Yes.
Yes.
The code is 68321289. I hope all of us are ready with the phone and the Mentimeter. So I see 7 people who have already registered. You can give in comments if you want. I see more coming in. All right, let's start. So the first question is, what happens if you set some restriction in a policy that you deploy and in which you leave enforce analyzer before publish to no? The options are, the restrictions will not apply when you try to publish an automation that goes against those restrictions, or it depends on the user's rights and local settings. The one who answers the most quickly gets the most points as well. All right, so the times is up. Let's see. 6 people have answered. The correct answer is it depends on the user rights and local settings. I did tell you that while I was starting my demo. Let's see the leaderboard. So for the first question, the winner is Venkat Krishna. He was the fastest. Let's go to the second question. Niklesh, I hope you're taking
Yes,
note
yes.
of who's winning
Yes,
here.
yes.
Thank you. Which of the following types of governance files generated from Studio can be edited after being uploaded to Automation Ops? This is a very easy question. I hope you all can answer this. You've got 30 seconds of time to answer. All right, let's see some answers popping up. Both the modern and classic. No, only the modern ones. Let's see the leaderboard now. It's again Venkat. Niklesh, I hope you're taking note. We have a
Yes,
gift.
yes.
We
Yes,
have
yes,
a
yes.
winner policy as well. Yay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next question.
It's interesting. It's interesting. Come on, guys. Come on.
Select the correct order of inheritance. Okay, remember the inheritance portion where I was talking that think of this question from the lowest to the highest point. That would be your answer as well. That's good. Yeah, from user to group and then tenant, from lower to highest. All right, let's see. Venkat is leading the leaderboard right now. That's impressive.
Impressive.
I think, yeah, I think he's done the academy course as well.
Yeah.
All right. This is the last question. What happens if during deployment at user level, no policy is selected? It's a very simple question. And remember, it's at user level. If user level, no policy is selected. At user level, if no policy is selected, no policy is applied. Let's see the leaderboard. And this is the final leaderboard. Okay. Krishna got the last answer correct, but the most correct answer was from Venkat, right?
Yes, yes.
So Niklesh, would you like to tell the winner of this quiz?
Yeah, actually, Venkat been in the top position for 3 times. So
Yeah.
I think we need to select Venkat Krishna.
Definitely.
Hearty congratulations, Venkat Krishna. And even Krishna Chaitanya did the best. So, I mean, so I think we can keep the runner up. So, this Venkat Krishna, you will be the winner for this quiz. Thank you so much for active participation. So, I think what I would like to do is, so Venkat Krishna, I will give you an email ID to you. So you should drop your address, which is having the blue dot courier service, blue dot. So then my community manager will reach out to you. So sending some interesting goodie for you, Venkat Krishna. So Venkat Krishna, am I audible? And what I said?
Yes.
Thank you, Venkat Krishna. I'm typing the email ID here. Okay.
Congratulations, Venkat, and congratulations, Krishna and others. Thank you for active participation. And that's all from my side. I'll stop the share and I'll leave the floor open for questions, comments. How would you plan to use automation ops in your organization? Anything that comes to your mind. Let's have an open discussion.
Yes, guys, if you have any questions, so we are, Juveria is available to answer. So any questions from this session or anything you would like to have your answer, then you can go ahead.
Hey, Niklesh, thanks for organizing this. And Juveria session, we learned so many new things actually. So one question that I have is that, is this available with only enterprise version of the UiPath, or can we do this with community edition as well?
You can do it with both edition. Actually, it's not edition based. It's available on your automation cloud, so you can use it. It's currently on cloud and the future releases would be on-prem as well.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Any other question, guys?
Yeah, if not questions, I would really like to know your feedback or your suggestions on how would you use automation ops in your organization.
Yes, we would like to hear from you guys. Venkat, I have given you the email address. So can you please note down it before we close the room?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. So you can drop your address over there, okay? And guys, any other questions or any suggestions, feedback for this session, or even if you are having any thoughts like for next sessions, if you have any interesting topic to discuss, our MVPs are available. So even most of us know Laharu is available. Hi Laharu, you would like to add something to here?
Hi guys. No, actually, I think Juveria mentioned everything. So yeah.
Nikhil, hi, this is Chris.
Hi Chris. Hi, thanks for joining, Chris.
My apologies. You sent a good number of invitations. You have been sending it like almost like for the past 6 months or so. Somehow I couldn't make it, but thanks to the lockdown once again. And today somehow I was able to, cause it's long weekend for us, and I thought I could join this, even though I'm from the more from the revenue side. I mean, I especially take care of the sales and marketing efforts, especially my even though we are partner agnostic, my company, I actually get inclined towards UiPath because that's the reason we have been placed in the diamond partners of UiPath. Anyways, Juveria, thank you. That was a very nice session. Even though I'm not a pure techno guy, especially from the RPA front as well, I'm more into sales and marketing. But I love to. I mean, I did some basic automation. I'm not. I'm still like a novice. Okay, on the technical side, but yeah, we had done a pretty good number of success stories in actually propagating UiPath into the US base, and we had some good number of success stories in the space as well. And Nikhil is actually is really sharing a lot of information. He's sharing, trying to organize some good number of things. And thank you, Nikhil, for inviting me into this. And I'll try to pass on this particular information about these meetings, chapter meetings, brainstorming sessions to my team, offshore team, as well as someone. I mean, I have few people in the Canada region as well. They might be interested. Maybe it's quite early. It might be quite early for them to join. At times, if it is 4 p.m. IST, I'll see if they could actually make it from the next time. Mostly my offshore people will join from the next meeting, and I'll try to spread it from my end as well.
Sure, Chris. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. And adding to your note, like, see, we have different regions, and we have not only India, we have US, we have UK, we have different time zones, and we have different meetups every week, every day, like every month. They used to have the different meetups. So
Yes.
just you need to browse like community.events.com. Then whenever the new event pop-ups there, so, your team or offshore team or India team can browse if the topic is interesting for them. Then definitely you can join there. Yeah, not only
Yeah.
IST.
Yeah, Nikhil, and one more thing. I see this particular thing which is happening in the recent past because we know that there are a lot of licenses components. The naming has been changed. New license names are coming in. Something like a studio being, I mean, the naming has been changed. The licensing names, like from studio to developer. Okay. So can you actually help us? I mean, it's not going to be a very lengthy session, but maybe as part of us upcoming sessions, maybe you can spend some time, like 5 or 10 minutes for the participants, because I see a lot of confusion happening with respect to the developers. When I attend some technical meetings within my team, people get confused with this new names coming in and new licenses. Anyways, the previous licenses are confined to certain set of features, but the new licenses which they are actually releasing, I mean, with the name change, they're adding some more features. And it's enhancement of the previous versions. So I feel in order to get rid of those such kind of confusions, maybe if you guys could spend some time on that, just to clarify people who are a little bit confused, the developers who are getting inclined to only some certain set of naming conventions, because that really adds up, a little bit of confusion to our technical team. When they interact with clients, even client gets confused with the naming changes, and we send the pricing codes, things like that. Hope you can understand.
Yes, Chris, definitely. I will talk to my MVPs on this point. So I think Juveria or Lehru, do you have anything to add here right now, or we can?
Well, I think these kind of sessions will be very helpful, and definitely we can incorporate something. The best person to ask for it would be Vibhor, because anything related to license, the most authentic information you'll get directly from UiPath.
Sure. Thanks, Juveria. And I think we are good with the session. So if you, I mean, if you are available with your video, you can take a snap for this session and we can wrap up this session. So guys, if anybody is available, could you please open your camera, and so that we can take a simple snap and we can close this session. Even if somebody has missed this session, the recording will be available in the same page with the same link. So you can share with your friends as well who are being registered. So within the same link, the recording will be available after few minutes. I mean, after few hours, it will be published. So that's it from my end. And so if somebody, I mean, if anybody is available to take a picture, so that would be great. Or else we can the session.
Looks like the host has stopped the video.
So it will be like that. Wait. No, I don't think so. Can you please try once again? Because the video will not be like that. Thank you, Saku. Thank you. Okay, then I think we are good with that. And so thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for joining. It was really interesting session. As I said, Venkat Krishna, you will get the goodie from our community manager. So thank you for participating, and even thanks for everyone. And thank you so much, Lehru, for your time joining here. And thank you, Juveria. It was a really wonderful session. So thank you, guys. Cheers. Bye bye. I'm closing the room.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.